welcome to episode 4 of the Fill Up. This is recorded February 26th, so we're just coming off the week of the Ignite series at Richmond and the season opener for the Octane series at Daytona. So we'll go ahead and get right into it. For Richmond, for the Ignite series, we had another full field of 42 drivers. 40 of those were sticking around all the way to the checkered flag. 27 of those finishing on the lead lap. Ethan Lane put on a clinic. Took the pole position by a decent margin, and then went on to lead the most laps. Led 116 out of the 150 and won the race. Other accolades that were earned by someone not named Ethan Lane. Blake Gordon was our hard charger. He was up 20 spots. And throughout the course of the race, we had 5 yellows for a total of 25 laps, which for a short track ain't bad. We did better than last week at Rockingham. So I think, 3 races into the season, we're getting, the folks that have already known each other for a while are still, for the most part, playing nice. And some new folks that some of us haven't raced with before are getting accustomed to each other. And as we're shaping up to have a good season so far. Boomer, how about you? Anything you want to go over from the top 10?
No, I mean it was pretty and it seemed like it was uneventful, but it wasn't. Um, there was I guess there's one big wreck that we had that kind of cleared out just about the whole field, but other than that, it's been it was pretty much no surprises in the top 10, I would say. A lot of guys up there that are pretty well versed in short tracks and are at the front of the pack just about every week. So it was from the front standpoint, it was a pretty decent race, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Out of the 5 of us here on the panel tonight, Don Stevenson is sitting in for Jacob Fife, who just welcomed their daughter into the world a couple days ago. So he's taking some much deserved time off from talking to the few viewers that we have of this weekly series. But all 5 of us here were in attendance on Monday night. So because Boomer brought up that giant parking lot of a wreck, um, who made it through unscathed, and who took a bunch of damage out of the 5 of us? I know I pulled into the parking lot and stopped without hitting anything, and then about 6 more cars piled into me afterwards, and I was completely junked after that.
Yeah, I pretty much ended my night. So yeah.
I know I know Gael was stuck inside Boomer for quite a moment. I
Yeah.
myself I myself like saw it happening, and then I saw the 76 like straddling the apron in the track, and I was barely able to get between him and the pit wall. So I got through clean.
I had made it through pretty clean as well. I actually kind of just came to a stop right in the middle of the track, and I don't know how I don't know how people didn't run into me, but everyone ran into each other kind of right around me, and just I guess I had the pink force field around me with the breast cancer awareness Chevy, but I mean it just like no one hit me. But the problem I had was I had old tires, and I from the stop before I had stayed out, and we went green the rest of the way. So ended up getting passed by some others, and I think I ended up finishing 11th when it was all said and done, or 12th, or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we're talking through this in the power of post production, you'll be seeing some video clips that I've swiped from people's Twitch streams and some screenshots. One of note that I really got a big chuckle out of was a picture of Justin Morton just pulling onto pit road instead of even trying to navigate the wreck. He was like, "Nope, I'm good. I'm
You
good.
That was
have to
that was the smartest move he could make
I'll
there.
just go
Yeah.
45 miles an hour. I'm good."
you have to get Kyle Cooper's impression of driver as he's like
Oh
backing through
yeah,
the wreck. He like stalls between the two and I think somebody else. He had posted a clip in our Discord. We've had to go search in the series chat for it, but that was I think we laughed at that for like maybe 20 minutes, just the
yeah.
way he perfectly like.
Yeah, I'll have to grab a copy of that and drop it into the video as well here. But yeah, the clip that I saw of him, it looked like a scene straight out of Baby Driver. Just like, oh, I'm going back up at about 80 miles an hour and going just, flip through this little gap here. No big deal. Like he's done it a million times before. That was incredible. I mean, I think if we counted it out, at least 25 cars had some sort of contact in that whole mess. So
It was just a good wreck.
It was just a
I
dirt
mean,
wreck, if there is such a
like,
thing. Mm, incredible. So coming out of Richmond, looking at the playoff standings, and just so anyone that's watching remembers, so we're not doing a win and in style format like the current real life NASCAR series. We're just taking the top 16 in points, and then those top 16 will reset with a couple of bonus points based off of people who win the halfway bonus points during each race will get a bonus point to add to their playoff tally. But looking at the top 20 here, I guess going to this screenshot, top 21, since there's a tie for 20th, um, that cutoff line from 16th on down is still fairly tight, but even 10th on to 16th, I mean the bubble is not very big to begin with. For those of us that are looking at the standings at the moment, let's see anyone in this room. Gael is in 19th, Boomer you're in 20th. Don, you're pretty safely up the chart a little bit in 6th, and Stroll you're in 2nd. But what are the impressions of the folks that are riding around the bubble right now? I know we're still a long ways out for the playoffs, but never too early to talk about it.
I mean, I think it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be tight because we also going to have to factor in the drop weeks.
Great point. Yeah.
So I mean, I think it is, like you said, it is probably a little bit too early to know exactly what's going to happen, because I know I'll be missing a race too as well in April. So like I might seem like I'm somewhat safe now, but miss a race, and if you happen to have a bad race, those drop weeks can add up real quick. So I mean, I think it's going to be tight all the way through, and we're not going to really know anything until we get to the last week of the season, really.
No,
and just so people are aware, as far as drop weeks, you cannot drop the last race before the reset, which we call the Clash playoffs. So you can't drop Iowa. So if you miss Iowa, the drop weeks will be implemented or taken into account for once before we get into Iowa.
Yeah, so Iowa will be a mandatory points race for everyone involved, whether you show up or not, to Mike's point. And then from the other first 10 races, you can drop any two out of the 9 besides Iowa. But yeah, that's a great point, and I didn't really think about that because everyone that's in the top 20 at the moment, apart from Ethan Lane, have been here for every week. So there really isn't even a drop week to even consider just yet. Probably by the time we get to around Talladega in late March, we'll start to see that kind of develop and see what the drop weeks are going to do to the points.
Yeah, and there's guys outside the top 16. Like I'm looking right now, Chad Cole, he's got pace. Anthony DeBarro, Chad Mikas, Nick Cohan, if he comes every week, and got Justin Morton down in 42nd.
He's had a
That's
couple rough weeks
unheard
for
of.
sure, yeah. But I mean,
So
yeah, I think he's had one, out of the first 3 races, 2 of them have been kind of difficult for him, and I think he's got some equipment stuff that he's teething issues he's working through from what I've heard. But I mean, if he drops those 2 races, if he kind of gets everything else buttoned up, he'll be thick in the fight as we get down the stretch here.
And I know some guys that are a little nervous in the bum. You got Bernhard, you have Shane Ewing, Forrest Smith, Gael, Boomer, Casey Shue, and Dinsmore, who always seem to hover around that bubble spot. And it'll be interesting. And I know 2 of the guys are in here. It'll be interesting to see how you guys and the others handle, quote unquote, the pressure. How do you overstep that line, or do you try to get as many points as possible to hold off those guys that are way outside?
Well, I can speak for part of one of our strategies. Gael, I know you love to just stay out the first yellow you can and try and snag a bonus point for leading the lap. I mean, you're sitting on seven bonus points so far this year. No top 5 or top 10, but showing up, decent finish, and a couple of bonus points has got you still in the chase for sure.
Yeah, no, bonus points are definitely. I mean, those are good to come by. It's like I said, I definitely pulled that at Rockingham, and I think it didn't hurt me in the long run. And honestly, like Richmond, I thought I was about to be sitting pretty because I had pitted like 1 or 2 yellows before when pretty much all the lead pack came in, because then they could make it to the end, and I was good as well. And then, like we previously mentioned, that big one, and that caught me out. And the funny part was, I actually thought about like I think the choose cone. I mean, it's a pretty big deal now. I mean, I was torn. I was like, do I want to go top? Do I want to go bottom? I honestly thought about going bottom, like almost like a Talladega Daytona, like, hey, I'm gonna have more room to avoid if there's a wreck. And I opted. I was like, I waffled. I was like, no, I'm gonna go top. And unfortunately, just that was the wrong choice there. I just had no really to go to the bottom. I thought I saw an opening for a split second up top, and then I saw Boomer and tunnel vision. And I was like, well, I might as well go visit Boomer. And so I kind of decided to go visit him. And so I'll have some nice decorative additions to my paint scheme for Atlanta that are fun to have. So yeah, I'd say it definitely wasn't intentional. Let's say the running joke. I mean, Boomer and I obviously racing together, broadcasting together, like, and apparently crashing together as well. So say we do it all together here. But strategy wise, yeah, if I can get a bonus
Whoa,
point, yeah.
whoa.
Not doing it all together. Okay, let me asterisk on that one. But no, and yeah, so bonus points, I try to snag those if I can. Like, I honestly, like, for Atlanta, like, I'm honestly looking forward to Atlanta. I love the tracks that are really abrasive, that really help if you can manage, like the Rockingham. Like, if you can manage your stuff, it usually suits you well. And so that's what I'm going to try to do, is to take care of my stuff and be there for longer runs. I love that we're doing the old Atlanta too. I mean, not a knock on it, but like, I'm not a big fan of the Atlanta super speedway, if you will. So it's, yeah, I think you don't overdo it, because if you start doing too much out of the ordinary, you're just going to put yourself in a bad position somewhere. And so I know it's that whole, it sounds like a cop out that all the drivers, oh no, I just race it like I race any other race. It's like, yes, but probably not completely.
Yep, I hear you on that. Hey, Boomer, just out of curiosity, I know at one point you were kind of in between pit cycles when most of the field went and took tires, and you ended up restarting in second. But were you, in your mind, were you thinking that you might have had a chance at snagging a bonus point by leading a lap there, or were you just like, no,
Um,
I just want as much track position as I can get?
I was just trying to play a track position game and see how far it would take me. Honestly, obviously it didn't really end up very well because I kind of got taken out when during that yellow at the front of the pack. So I was just kind of hoping to just hang around and not be the yellow and maybe pit a little bit later and have tires. But I guess it just didn't work out. So um, yeah, it was different. I wasn't really trying to gain bonus points. I know like that's something that we've already highlighted on this show, is that it's important, and obviously Gael has been really good at clawing and scratching to get one or two here and there, and I don't think I've had a single bonus point in over 2 or 3 seasons in league racing. So it's been a while, so I need to really start getting better at that, and maybe that was an effort at that, but I think it was just trying to stay at the front, try to get good track position and keep it, because I knew I had some pace. I didn't have a ton of pace to be up there with the leaders, but I had some pace to at least be in the conversation, and wanted to try and improve and retain that as much as I could.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm right there with you as far as having bonus points being hard to come by. I feel like usually my best shot at it would probably be if I was anywhere close to the tail end of the top 10, but I have not been able to get a good enough result in the first half of any of these races to be within striking distance. So
I know I could probably be I guess the opposite of that thinking and logic, because like I think last season, or I made the playoffs and I probably had the least amount of bonus points of everyone that made the playoffs, and like that so far that's holding true so far. I'm pretty much the only one in the playoffs right now without playoff points, it appears, or bonus points.
yeah, actually you're right. I think between you and then 16th Trevor Trago, he's got 0 bonus points at the moment, but he's doing a pretty good job of finishing in that 15 to 20 range, and honestly, I mean that's just about good enough to sneak into one of those last couple spots. So I mean, consistent finishes are one thing, but whenever you can snag a couple extra points to give yourself a little bit of an edge, it will be critical. Looking through the top 16, the number of folks that have double-digit bonus points after 3 races is it's pretty telling. Like, if you don't score any, you might have a tough time. Rob Ackley might be one of the few. Rob, Don, like you just mentioned yourself, Brad Patton, all you guys have 5 or less bonus points and hanging on just on your good results alone. But a couple more bonus points and you guys be sitting real pretty going into the second half of the regular season here.
I mean, I think it's hard because like I focus on, I just try to really focus on getting the best finish I can each particular race, and sometimes that means sacrificing, the stage points, and
Mm-hmm.
because I figure, you know, if I going for stage points, if I'm going for stage points, I want to get like, if I could get 10, 9, 8, 7, if I could get a big chunk of them, then I could see it worth it. But if it's only to get 1 or 2 points and I have to risk losing 10 or 15 places in my finishing order, or getting in the middle of the pack or back of the pack in a bad area and get involved in a wreck, I'm, you know, I'm always just gonna ride and die with, trying to get the best finish I can. But again, then I usually kind of go with against the grain, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's a fine strategy, and that cost benefit analysis that you're referring to is definitely critical. I think I would agree with you if I was, of the level of talent of you or a couple of the other guys on the panel right here. I think I'd be strongly considering like, you know what, I don't need one bonus point. I'd rather just go ahead and get the track position and, gain or 6 or 7 regular points from just my finishing position alone. All right. Well, that leads us into our next topic, the bracket matchups for the Ignite series. We're down to our final 4. Let's look at the matchups that we went through this past week at Richmond. So, Mike, you had a nice top 5 finish there, finishing 3rd, and knocked out Cody Smith, who had a decent finish of his own, finishing 15th, but not quite enough to match up with you. So you'll be moving on to Atlanta, and you'll be facing off against Tyler Hensley, who didn't quite have the result I'm sure he would have wanted, finishing 23rd, but lucky for him, his opponent was not able to make it. I guess he got stuck in traffic on the way over to the racetrack or something. And then on the opposite side of the bracket, we had a couple barn burner matchups here. Brandon Bernhardt finishing 20th, advancing over Chad Mikas, who finished 28th. And then our own Boomer Logan had a rough
That's in
go
trouble.
of it. We were talking about at one point he was sitting top 2 on a restart, and then he winded up finishing 39th. So Daniel Fass ended up winning the matchup against him, and he'll go up against Brandon next week. So
To be fair, Daniel was definitely leading me most of that battle ahead of time, but it definitely was the damage that did me in at the end. So
yeah. So we're down to our final 4. I guess the track itself will probably play a big part in this because we've now gone through 2 short or shorter tracks from the schedule, and now we're moving into some of the 1.5-mile tracks with Atlanta and then Vegas the week after for the first bracket finale. Mike, I won't start with you. I'll come back around to you last. But how do we see this Stroll versus Hensley matchup, the battle of a couple of Ignite League admins? Anybody want to take a crack at that one first?
sure, I think it's going to be a good battle for sure. I mean, obviously, I think Michael's definitely one of the guys that you have to watch out to be in the top 10 every single week. As much as his ego doesn't need to hear that, he's definitely one of. I mean, he's there in and out every single week, and will definitely be a factor in this one. I think Tyler's got really good speed, really good pace at times too. I just think sometimes he's kind of like me. I think I said that last week where he kind of sometimes gets in his own way or makes a mistake that takes him out of it. But I mean, he's got the pace to be there, but doesn't always seal the deal. So I think Michael Stroh's going to take this one.
I think one thing that, I mean, maybe might be too early in the season to be thinking about it, but maybe where Tyler is and the points might have some type of effect with it. Like, if, you had said maybe Tyler ends up going for, playoff points, sacrificing the race finish slightly, maybe, because he's down in 11th in points. He might need to try to gamble a little bit to get some bonus points, and it could go one of 2 ways, right? It could go either way, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
it's definitely it's a really good matchup between the two of them. I mean, I know obviously both of them had a lot of speed. I think Hensley just hasn't had the luck, I'd say, this season, and so I'm gonna say, yeah, just honestly, just based on the way things have been going. Like, I mean, like obviously, like I said, Stroll's just, you've been really killing it so far this season. 3 starts, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. I mean, that's a really good run to kick off the season. So I feel like you've just been kind of in a rhythm right off the bat, and I don't see anything changing in Atlanta because I've seen you know what you're able to do, short run, long run, kind of maintain your stuff. So I think you'll be okay. Tyler's definitely going to give you a fight for it, though. There's no question. But I think, yeah, Edge probably would go to Stroll on this one.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And actually, looking back at the career stats according to Sim Racer Hub, Mike and Tyler both have plenty of experience at Atlanta. Mike with 10 league starts, Tyler with 13, both with plenty of top fives and top tens to their credit. Average finish and average qualifying is not far apart either. Mike usually finishes between 8th and ninth place, and Tyler between 10th and 11th. So both drivers have the experience and the pedigree to pull it off. I guess it's just going to come down to who executes well and who stays out of trouble. Worth noting that through the first three races of the bracket, Mike's average finish is the highest out of the four remaining, finishing on average 5.3, and then Hensley has averaged a finish of 16th through the first three races. So it's a little bit of a gap to close there, but I think getting to one of these intermediate tracks will be kind of a little bit of an equalizer for some of the faster guys that are left. So Mike, you've been quiet this whole time. How do you see your outlook tomorrow going into the matchup against Tyler?
I just like the previous 3 weeks, not easy. Daytona was always a crapshoot with 3 other guys. Then I had to go up against my teammate Rob, who put up a hell of a fight, and I wasn't sure what I was gonna get with Cody, um, but I know I've raced him hard at times too. So I think Tyler would be the first one to tell you that Atlanta is his best track, or his favorite track, and that track owes him a couple. So um, obviously you never know what's all gonna happen, and anything can happen. But I think this will be actually my toughest yet. Um, if I can get through Tyler, I feel like I can win the whole bracket. So, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'll move over to the other half of our final four. So we got Brandon Bernhardt versus Daniel Fass. Looking at their career stats on SimRacer Hub, we're looking at two relative rookies when it comes to Atlanta Motor Speedway. So Daniel Fass has 0 career starts in any car or at least any oval car at Atlanta, and Brandon's not much better off. He's got one career start. He started 12th, finished 7th, so he's got one top 10 to his name. I think for myself, Gael, and Boomer, we've all had a little bit of experience running around Brandon because he's been kind of in that ping-ponging back and forth between being in the top 15 to maybe back towards like the 25th, P25 somewhere in there, and back and forth and back and forth. Um, how do we see this matchup going in? Because I know we talked about last week about Daniel just kind of being a survivor and hanging on just long enough to finish the job. But do we think his luck runs out here, or is he going to have a chance to kind of take Brandon to task?
I'll start off. I don't know. I think Daniel actually has a. Like I say, unfortunately, we don't have the numbers, but I think the bigger tracks actually. I feel like I feel like Daniel and I are kind of similar the way we race and like maybe our preferred tracks and such. I could be way off base, but just racing with him and kind of hanging out with him here and there. I think Atlanta actually will fit in pretty well with him. He seems to me at least like a fairly pretty smooth driver that doesn't make any too crazy moves and stuff like that. And I think again Atlanta's definitely a place that will be able to promote that. And obviously not a knock on Brandon by any means. You guys have mentioned, I mean, his qualifying's definitely jumped up a ton on Brandon's side. I just feel like he might risk for Brandon burning up his stuff a little bit too much too early, and that could hurt him later in the runs. I feel like I've seen Brandon being the aggressor, if you will, at the beginning of a run. I don't think you'll be able to get away with that too much at Atlanta. So just on that, I say like this is just kind of my shot in the dark, but I'm gonna say Daniel's gonna go ahead and snag one and make it to the final.
All right,
Yeah, we'll see. I think it'd be a good battle no matter what. I think Daniel's definitely had, or Brandon's definitely had a better season than Daniel so far. Brandon's been more consistent throughout. Um, I think I'd like to give the nod to Brandon there just because I think he's had a better season so far. Has showed pace, and I mean they're both guys that are in contention for top 15s, top 20s every single week. I mean Brandon's had a couple shots at top 10 so far this season. Obviously, we're going to our first 1.5 mile track, not a short track or not a super speedway, but I think Brandon's got a pretty good shot. I mean, I think this is still just like last week with Daniel and I. I think this is one of the closest matchups we've had in this bracket so far. So it'll be a good one no matter what.
I mean, I don't think we're gonna really be able to go off of what's gone on so far with the first 3 races because, like last week we were at Richmond, which is short track. Rockingham is, it's a 1 mile track, but I think it more races more like a short track. And obviously we had Daytona, so I think this is like the first real, like true mile and a half oval we've had. So I mean, and with Atlanta, the track being as abrasive as it is, my money would be on whoever can save the tires the best. And because a lot of times races at Atlanta, it comes down to a long run at the end. So that would be on my bet. Whoever can save the tires the best.
Yeah, asking for a friend. Is just being slow count as saving your tires?
No.
Okay, I thought not. Of note with the two guys that are here on the other side of the bracket, so Bernhardt through the first 2 races this season, and obviously Don's point, none of the first 2 races have been in an intermediate mile and a half track, but Bernhardt's average finish is 17th, where Daniel has been putting his lucky horseshoe to work, and he's averaged a finish of 32nd through the first 3 races, but as we've seen so far with this bracket, from Daytona all the way to Richmond, anything can literally happen.
That just means he's due.
You know, he is due for a good finish. So maybe this will be the week he puts it all together. But that's a nice segue into talking about the race coming up this week, tomorrow night. So we'll be at Atlanta for 175 laps. In the pre-show here, the five of us were talking about how the weather might play a factor in this one, but we'll go and turn it over to Mike for a track talk about Atlanta Motor Speedway.
Yeah, sure. So Atlanta in the sim, it's old Atlanta. It's the best Atlanta. I kind of put that in the category with Darlington and Rockingham. So if you had trouble with tire wear at Rockingham at any point, you better figure it out before you get in here. The forecasted weather, I think, it's going to be a little warmer. Probably the warmest race we've had all season. Besides Daytona. Maybe even warmer than Daytona. I think it's gonna be about 80 degrees. And the wind is gonna be a big factor. They want to, I think, coming from the southwest, so it's gonna be blowing your car off of Ford and just testing the server and stuff and experiencing that. It's definitely an Atlanta race that is different for me because the track is different. So if you've run Atlanta in the B car before, this is going to be different just because of the weather. Real bumpy, abrasive. You can be feeling like you're wrecking more on the backstretch than in the corners at times. It's definitely going to be a handful. I'm excited to hopefully race for the full field. And if you want to see how I get around the track, you can go to my Twitch stream at twitch.com/killerundies. I have a 50 lap run there of what I did. I have no secrets to hide. So that's all I got to say about Atlanta. Should be fun.
Yeah, so if you want to see exactly how Mike's going to spank the field tomorrow night, go check out his Twitch. Thanks for the plug
I,
there, buddy.
I'll probably run behind Ethan at some point till checker flag.
I mean, based on last night, or last week, you and everyone else, my friend.
Yep.
All right, well, that's enough about Ignite for now. The Octane series, as we mentioned at the top of the show, just kicked off their season. And, well, we had a lot of the same on Tuesday night as we had on Monday night with Ethan Lane taking the pole position over at Daytona. But different winner. We had Cody Smith take home the W, and Tom Wetmore led the most laps with 35. I think out of the 100 laps total in the running, 24 of those were under caution, so we had 8 yellows. So a little bit of a messy Daytona season opener, but all things considered, it looks like we had a solid turnout. So Don, I think you're the only one out of the five of us that was actually in attendance. I know Boomer was trying to make it and wasn't able to make it in time. But how did the race go overall?
I mean, it was It was a difficult race, and because with the Cup cars there at Daytona, they were a handful. I mean, it was we had the photo shoot there, uh, a few weeks ago or a month ago, and the cars were wrecking sideways, you know, just even without even pushing it, without being in a huge pack. It wasn't the easiest combination to get around there, even though it was Daytona. So a lot of
Well,
drivers
especially
just were overdoing it. But I felt like everyone did a much better job on Tuesday night. Um, we had an incredible finish. Cody went. We had a restart with 5 laps to go, and Cody actually went from he got collected in a wreck when that caution came out. Restarted in like 21st with 5 laps to go, and was actually able to drive through the front and made a last lap pass, or made the pass off of turn 4 to win the race. I mean, it was an incredible finish. You got to check it out there on the broadcast. But it really was. It was a pretty fun race. Just a lot of new faces, a lot of people getting used to each other, and a lot of familiar faces. So I mean, I thought overall everyone did a pretty solid job, and looking forward to next week at Auto Club. Get to a real track.
Yep,
Yeah, I know.
absolutely.
When we ran the practice race there, or the recruiting race for the Octane series, that was definitely a bit of a handful on on that super speedway and the basic or like the iRacing provided setup for Daytona. So I guess not super surprising to see the yellows, but hopefully I hope to be there this time. Actually, unfortunately couldn't make the last one, but hope to be there for this one, and should be a good race this week at Auto Club.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking at bonus points, so Don, can you remind me how you guys pay out bonus points at the end of each stage? Or I guess you guys only have one stage yellow in the middle of the race, but is it top 10 that gets paid out, or is it top 5, or how does that all work out?
It is top 10. It just it looks like, unfortunately, the majority of the guys that collected stage points didn't finish in the top 20. We had a pretty big wreck, as most times in Daytona we do. We had a pretty big wreck, well, with like 10 to go, I believe, that just wiped out the front half of the field. Like, let's put it this way: with 20 laps to go, I was a lap down in 30th, and I finished in 5th, but I was not any higher than 25th through basically 90 laps of that race, and
Oh wow.
had the wreck with 10 to go and restarted in 11th, and the whole field just really flip flopped from from the front to the back. Like Cody and Seth, and Brad, like they were up front the majority of the race, but everyone else, it flip flopped.
Yeah. And then looking at the top 16 in point standings, I think you guys also have a playoff format, but you guys are running the entire calendar year as opposed to the split A and B schedule like the Ignite series. So I guess we don't have to do too big of a deep dive into the point standings, but much to Don's point about the field completely shuffling after the stage was over with, only let's see, of the 10 drivers that got stage points at Daytona, only 6 of them are showing up here in the top 16 of the standings. And looks like there's a lot of folks that got taken out in that big wreck that he was referring to. And we'll probably have some clips here. You'll get to see just how big it actually was. Um,
Oh, it was a big one. It was pretty gnarly.
yeah, for sure. All right, and I guess that's a good time to segue into the bracket that is started off for the Octane series. So it looks like I want to say Jay Heishman put this together and took 18 drivers from the end of season top 32 from last year, and then there was a random draw to fill out those last 14 spots out of the top 32 guys that are facing off in the bracket. So, um, how are things looking after the first week? I know we were saying in the pre-race or pre-show here that there were a lot of folks that we wouldn't have expected to get knocked out that are now on the outside looking in for the rest of this bracket.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you could kind of just look at the top right bracket there. I mean, Nick Tarabuck, he was the runner-up, or he was the runner-up for the championship last year, and Ethan Lane, who's pretty much been up front winning just about every race so far this season, they're both out. So it really just flipped that whole. And Guillermo Alvarez is also out, and the I could go down all these. Like, there's just so many really fast drivers that are not in it anymore. But I will say the matchup for the week will be, I believe, Thomas Wetmore versus Caitlin Height. Like, those are two drivers that win multiple races every season. So I guess me thinking selfishly, it's gonna be nice that I won't have to worry about one of them. But it's gonna be some interesting matchups at Auto Club, and some drivers that are advancing that some drivers getting to the semifinals and to the finals that you probably wouldn't have expected, when the bracket started.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other big names that stick out to you? I know it looks like out of we'll say the top four seeds, so 1 through 4 all made it through apart from Tarabook, so that's a big miss there. But any other ones that you think might be a dark horse candidate to kind of sneak their way into maybe the final four?
Uh, Actually, I think Trevor Trago has got a good, he's. I think Trevor Trago is probably the favorite um, to probably get to Vegas. Um, I think he and Cody Griffin. I think that will be a good matchup there at Auto Club. Uh, Gosh, it's the thing is that we have a lot of new drivers. Like, we have Alan Dobbs. He's going to be facing off against Jay Heichman, but then he's going to have a tough matchup with, or that's going to be a tough matchup no matter who they face with Thomas Wetmore and Caitlin Height. Uh, there's actually just a lot of even matchups in the Auto Club uh, round where it's going to be hard to kind of, dictate. I think I have a nice path in it as well, but I could see it being a tough matchup in Vegas too. So it's going to, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be interesting.
Excellent. And then looking forward to Tuesday this week. So round two of the Octane series, you guys will be at Auto Club. Obviously, things are going to be a little bit different since you guys are in the next gen car versus the B car that we're using for the Ignite series. Tell us a little bit about what you're thinking about the car and track combination going into this week.
It's going to be a handful. I was just watching the NIS race for the official series there, and it looks like the cars are going to be a little bit loose, a little bit hard to control, but it looks like you're going to be able you have choices as far as what groove to run there. That's the great thing about Auto Club. You could run all the way up on the wall, you could run all the way on the bottom. Biggest thing I would advise is try to control your car above anything. Almost kind of race it like a Darlington, where you race the racetrack before you race the other drivers. And just try to control your car the best you can. And I mean, I saw the guys in NAS run a 50-lap run, green. So I'm fully confident that we could do the same as well.
Excellent. Now, looking forward to watching that race on FTN on Tuesday night. And if I have an opportunity at some point this year, I think I want to go ahead and pay for a charter and get a couple races in the next gen car, because I just have not spent a lot of time in it, and I'd like to get a little more practice in that one. So you might be lapping me here in the near future.
Well, it'd probably be Ethan before me, but yeah.
Given my track record, most of the field's going to see what the backside of my car looks like for a brief moment or two.
And not because you're at the front of the pack, right?
Yeah, it went without saying until you just went and opened your mouth, Boomer. But
I'm sorry. I
appreciate the clarification.
Yes, I like the clarification. Thank you.
Well, since you just want to be part of this conversation so dang bad, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about the 10 questions with Boomer guest of the week?
Yeah, so we had Tyler Hensley on. He's kind of other than myself, the last interview for the admins on the Monday night Ignite series. So was good to get a chance to hear from him, and looking forward to next week's as well. Tom Wetmore. So Tyler was on or did a 10 questions interview in the past, so it was cool to have him back. We're kind of flipping back and forth between the Octane and the Ignite series admins. So we're going to be working with Tom Wetmore next week. We were originally going to do Jay Heichman, then Tyler, and then Tom, but I didn't realize that Tom would be out of town. So he's back in town now, and he'll be in the hot seat next week, and it'll be kind of our in continuation of going back and forth. We got a couple more Octane admins to get through, and then I think in a couple of weeks we'll start pulling up maybe some of the winners, the first ever winners in the Ignite series after Tom's interview. So yeah, been a blast and really have enjoyed getting to know. Obviously, Don, you've already done one. I think everyone in here has done one now at one point, but obviously, Don, getting to know you more recently than the rest of the group here. It's been cool to kind of get to know you guys on Tuesday nights, and I'm looking forward to running more with you guys and getting to know you guys better too. So it's been fun to. It's always fun to do these interviews, but it's fun to get to know new people and get a chance to also know people that you've been running with for years and sometimes know nothing about. So that's what 10 questions is for, and it's been a blast.
Yeah, I mean, like we're obviously pretty new to it from the Octane series, but it's been awesome on our end as well because like we're like when he sent it to me, I was like, oh wow, this is pretty cool, and actually I had to put a lot of thought into the answers and stuff too. So I mean, it's a great thing you guys are doing with that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you like it, and I hope everyone else gets a chance to read it when they have maybe a few minutes on the toilet during the middle of the day to learn a little bit about the people they share the track with on Monday or Tuesday night.
Hopefully, it's worth more than just the toilet time. But yeah, I appreciate everyone.
I
appreciate everyone who stops by.
I get my best reading done on the toilet. Don't knock it, man.
All right, then maybe that is a compliment, and I will take it that way. Thanks, guys.
All right, so it looks like we don't really have any news or announcements to go over this week.
I do have one. I wanted to congratulate Jacob and Brittany on welcoming their baby girl, their Adeline, to the world there Saturday afternoon. Congrats to them.
Cal might get some crap for that because that's definitely a big one.
No, you're
obviously
right.
Excited for him and hope everything has gone well for both mom, baby, and for Jake too. Definitely got to be exciting.
Yep, I feel like an idiot now, but I did mention it towards the top of the show briefly, and I had it in my notes to have that in the announcement section. I forgot to write it down, so my bad, Jacob. Hope you're.
Oh, there is one small announcement.
Oh, we got more now. Okay.
Oh well, if no one has seen in the Discord, for the Ignite schedule, we did swap the 2 road course races. So, take a look at that. Any questions? Drop a DM.
And Don, obviously that was entirely because of your request. Actually not, but
actually not. It was not because of his request, but I did think of him when I was switching it.
I had nothing to do with it.
I did think of you when I was switching it, and in turn left me an opening to name that race, which is the Integrity Fill Up 150K. So, yay!
Awesome.
That is awesome because I do love Okayama, and I will be missing the week or the race of April 3rd, and I don't believe I've ever run the Nürburgring GP version. So yeah, that I approve. I love it.
Yeah, it's no longer the in lieu of Don Stevenson, whatever mile marker it was before. So
yeah. All right. Well, before we wrap up here, I want to get people's final thoughts about the races coming up this week. So, for the Ignite race, here's what we'll do. We got 175 laps at Atlanta.
Oh boy.
How about in one word, tell me what your personal key is for the race. Boomer, we'll go and start with you. One word.
Ooh, can I do 2? Okay.
All right.
All right. Well, the word is save, but I guess that applies to patience and tires. Save your patience and your tires, but save.
All right, save it is. Gael, how about you?
I think mine would be smooth. I think that's going to be the key for Atlanta's. I mean, it kind of fits with the save as well, but I think you got to be smooth with the wheel and I think kind of just taking care of your stuff is gonna take care of you, if you will, at the end.
Well, not for nothing. If we're lucky enough to go green for any length of time, smooth onto pit road as well, because that's not an easy pit entry.
That's a very difficult pit road.
Absolutely. Don, how about you? One word for Atlanta.
Mine's actually going to be 3 words, but
Son
patience,
of a bitch.
patience, patience.
Okay. Got me on a technicality there. And Mike, how about you?
I will go with the word concentration and watching being smooth, be with your inputs, but just race the racetrack. It's gonna be a long race. It's 175 laps. That's long in Atlanta. You will be sweating when you're done with this race. So I hope we do get some long green flag runs. Like you said, Calvin, pit road is very, very difficult at this place. So I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, as a league, we have a good run. Last week was great, for a short track, a full field, and I think the more we race against each other, we'll learn each other's tendencies, and we'll get more and more green runs at places like this.
Yeah. I think my one word would be clean. So it applies in multiple ways. You got to have a clean race and make sure you're not using up too much of your stuff too early on the off chance we do have some long green runs, but also clean because I've got a the I feel like the last couple of years of league racing, you go to an easy track and there's a bunch of problems, but you go to a track that's supposed to be difficult, or at least a setup that is not super forgiving, and suddenly everyone drives real careful and real nice, and we end up with 100 lap green runs, and we hadn't had one of those all year long to that point. So I'm looking forward to a clean race tomorrow for sure.
Yeah. Don't forget to practice your pit entries.
Absolutely. Um, and then if you haven't already seen the choose cone, make sure you go check that out in the information tab under the Ignite series. Basically, the little apron area where it says Bass Pro Shops coming to the start finish line. That is the side you want to be on all 4 tires if you want the inside line. Otherwise, stay on the racing surface and you'll be on the outside line coming to restarts. And then not to leave anyone out. So Don, give me another word for Auto Club on Tuesday night for the Octane series.
Hold on. It's
Fair
going to
enough.
be ample. It's going to be, loose. It will. It's especially worse on corner exit. So just be, again, really, really smooth with your inputs. Smooth with the throttle. If you could do that, I think you'd be all right. And practice doesn't hurt.
Yeah, if I may, I might actually, yeah, practice would be my word because I don't have a lot of experience in this next gen car, but I'm hoping to get as much practice as I can in before Tuesday. So should be a blast though. Looking forward to getting in with those guys for my first race of the season.
Awesome. Well, we'll have all 5 of us racing either Monday, Tuesday, or both, as we've already mentioned. And look out for these guys as well as some others on the FTN network. So I think that's our entire agenda. So we're at time for the week. Wish everyone a good week and good racing this week. But from all of us here at the Fill Up, that's the episode. Now let's get back on the track. Thanks, and we'll catch you next time.
Later.
Have a good one, all.